All right, hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic because today we're going to be talking about a stock that I believe to be a little bit controversial. And maybe not controversial in the sense of what it does, but in the sense of whether we're looking to buy or not. We're going to be looking at MRNA, which is the underlying stock for the Yieldmax version MRNY, which is the Yieldmax Moderna Option Income Strategy ETF. The reason we're taking a look at this ETF is because it has been beaten down 72% down in the past year, in the past 5 years actually, or kind of zooming out the entirety of the Yieldmax ETF, it is down 75%. And so what I want to talk about in this video is this Yieldmax ETF that's trading under $5. Is it now a buy just based off of the price points and the underlying company? And that's what I want to talk about in this video, because if you are potentially able to scoop up a Yieldmax ETF, let's say for $5, and then it rallies back up to $15, you're then able to collect huge dividends, which could be potentially double. So you're looking at a 200% dividend yield, not 100% dividend yield on your initial investment. That's what we want to talk about today. Is there an opportunity with MRNY? And in this video, we're going to go over exactly what Moderna does. We're going to talk about some kind of examples where Moderna might see a huge rally and it might be good to own the stock or the Yieldmax ETF. And then we're also going to look at some competitors such as Pfizer, if I'm saying that right, Pfizer, because we want to look at how they are compared to their competitors and whether or not they are really a good buy for our portfolio. So if that does sound good, we're up to 6,146 subscribers, 338 subscribers in the past 28 days. I'm very excited to make this video because as we're building up cash in this account, we're getting more and more buying power. We're definitely looking to add more Yieldmax ETFs to the portfolio. Of course, in this portfolio, I do hold ULTY as my main holding. I'm definitely looking to make YMAX another real big holding within this portfolio. But one thing to keep in mind is we can also look for other Yieldmax opportunities. And one could potentially be MRNY, which is what we're talking about today. It boasts 106% dividend yield, exact same as all the other Yieldmax ETFs, as they take all of the downside, but not all the upside. But as you can see here, MRNA over the past, even in the past 3 years, it's gone from a roughly $400 stock at its peak here. We see almost a $500 stock all the way down to a $36 stock today. And why has this been? Over the past 6 months, you can see it's gone down 71% from $165 to $36. So when we look at a competitor like Pfizer, when I zoom out to the 6-month calendar, you can see here they don't exactly line up. Moderna has been going straight down since then, and Pfizer has only gone down since really the Trump election. And we can also get into a couple kind of instances where I want to touch on here because I have a good report up about what we're seeing for vaccines potentially, and that with the new kind of administration involved. But you could see here Pfizer has been trading pretty steadily, and it is a long-term dividend stock. It pays roughly about a 6.7% yield, pretty fantastic yield at that. You can see a $140 billion company, whereas Moderna is only a $14 billion company. Pfizer is 10% or 10 times greater than Moderna. And you could see here, when we look at Moderna's financials, it's not looking good. Sure, their total assets grew, but you can see here in 2023, they actually have gone down from 2022. So they're depleting their assets. The one thing that is good to note is they don't have much debt. They only have about $1.2 billion in debt. For their total liabilities, it reaches about $4.5 billion, where their total assets are sitting at about $18.5 billion. So that is really good to see. But when we move over to their income statement, you could see here that they really were performing very well during the COVID years. And when COVID-19 hit, their income jumped from $274 million to $17.7 billion, stayed steady at $18.8 billion, then dropped down over the next couple of years, where we're currently sitting at about $5 billion in revenue so far. In terms of what kind of operating cash flow they generated from that, they are currently generating a negative cash flow. Maybe that's why we see the assets depleting. Maybe they're selling assets in order to cover their business ventures. But what I would say is Moderna is not necessarily a company that I would want to personally buy when judging off of financials. You want to see over time the cash flow going up. You can see here the cash flow depleting. And why are we talking so much about cash flow? It's because Moderna is an underlying business. It's a business And when we're buying a Yieldmax ETF, although we are not invested directly in the business, we are invested in the price returns of the business. And so it's very important that MRNA does well in order for it to produce a good return for the stock and a good return for a Yieldmax ETF, and then in turn some fantastic dividends. And when we look at a competitor within the space, we look at Pfizer. Pfizer's balance sheet, they're a $140 billion company. You could see here that although, sure, in COVID, they were producing huge numbers. You know what? Let me go back to their income statement here, because this is their balance sheet. Huge numbers. They went from 41 billion to 81 billion, then $100 billion in a year in terms of revenue. They had a little bit of a slowdown, stayed consistent about $60 billion for the past 2 years, but you could see their operating income, although has taken a huge hit from the previous years, it is positive. It is still cash flowing. It is a cash flowing company, whereas Moderna is cash depleting as they are losing money for the past couple years when they are operating. That is not a great sign. Moderna, of course, they make vaccines. That is kind of their business. They definitely do have a bunch of other products as well. I don't necessarily know a whole ton about them, but what I would say is whenever there's some kind of health scare like we've had in the past, this is why I have this tab up, people tend to look for a safety net. And for a safety net for Moderna, you could see here when COVID hit, this was back in 2022. As we can just kind of look at the time frame right here, you could see that Moderna stock price skyrocketed afterwards because people were looking for vaccines and people were looking for safety nets. I do believe that if there's another big health scare, stocks like Pfizer, stocks like Moderna will have huge rallies. When will that come? Hopefully not anytime soon. Hopefully we'll have more time to prepare. But I do believe that when health scares come, people look for vaccines. They look for things. And I know there's been a lot of controversy and a lot of talk with the new kind of leaders in charge. We have Trump and Kennedy. He's looking to, I'm not really sure what exactly Kennedy is going to be doing because I am Canadian. I'm not super familiar with American politics, but it mentions that Trump had previously said he would allow Kennedy to go wild on healthcare. Cool. There's been a couple things where people are saying Kennedy has mentioned that he is not an anti-vaxxer and that he will he is not going to take away anybody's vaccines. But although we've heard this news and we've heard what he said, we've still yet to see gains in vaccine stocks such as Moderna and Pfizer. You could see in the past little while since the Trump campaign, they have all trended downwards. This could potentially bring a good buying opportunity if you believe in the companies long term. But people see a lot of negative sentiment around Trump winning the election and these vaccine stocks. So something to keep in mind if you are potentially investing in MRNY. So this is just kind of a full video just to kind of go over the competitors for MRNY. We have Pfizer, how it's really a much bigger business. It's performing a lot better. It's producing cash flow, but Moderna is not. And Moderna is trending down. So is the Yieldmax ETF. It is likely to do a stock split very soon. And for me currently, MRNY, although a great dividend, although a small price in terms of price to share ratio, I'm not necessarily looking to buy any at the current moment, but we'll have to see a turnaround in the business before I kind of look into that, because I don't believe there's a great opportunity at hand, but the share price is extremely beaten down. It's something I think if you're a long-term investor. So it's up in the air with MRNY. But nonetheless, we're always looking for opportunities with our page and with our money. So if you do like that, we're up to 6,146 subscribers. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you stick around, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.